So we all know that the modern mountain bike is an amazing machine. There's been huge advances in suspension and geometry design over the last few years, and the bikes will just plough through anything. But once upon a time, before even the most basic of suspension like this was thought of, bikes were fully rigid. So no suspension front or rear, and it was down to the skill of the rider. So why would you ride a bike like that in this day and age? Well, if you are of a certain age, these bikes will hold an incredible amount of nostalgia for you. They're just simple and amazingly fun bikes to ride. Basically, you are the suspension on a bike like this, so you're in an attack position with your arms bent and your legs bent to absorb as much of the trail and let the bike float around underneath you as you can. You're not tied to the old-fashioned components. If you wanted to, you could do something like this resto modded 98 rock hopper, which has got a modern 1x10 drivetrain on it. So yeah, you can modernize these bikes, these rigid bikes, but yeah, you can always tell if a rider started off riding on a rigid bike. The way they ride the bike, the way they use the suspension as an aid rather than just using it to smash through everything, the way the bike moves around underneath the rider, you can always spot a rider that started off on a rigid bike. It just resets your riding. If you try riding one of these bikes, you'll find the connection to the trail is incredible. It's especially on a 26-inch as well. Modern bikes tend to be quite disconnected from the trail in a lot of ways, obviously due to suspension. But yeah, this resets your ride. You feel absolutely everything on the bike. If you're of a certain age, there's going to be a massive nostalgia attached to these bikes as well, and a very sort of familiar feel to them. But if you've never ever ridden a rigid bike, if you're a new rider or a young rider, it's a whole new challenge. It's definitely something that you should look at trying at least once. See, I would almost guarantee you're going to really enjoy it. It brings another plane to ride in, another level of difficulty, if you like, after riding a full suspension bike. This one is a totally standard 1985 Peugeot with just, well, it's got a couple of period modifications on it, and the tyres are newer than what would have been on there, but it's almost completely standard apart from a few little touches, and it's just so much fun to ride. Like I say, completely rigid again, no suspension, made of steel. It really does polish up your handling skills and your awareness, and you can learn a lot from riding a rigid bike, which can then be transferred onto a full suspension bike if you choose to ride one of those. But they're just great. They're just great to ride, and they make even the most basic trails a challenge. So you don't necessarily have to go to a trail centre to get your kicks. A lot of natural trails can be really challenging on a bike like this because there's so much involved in riding them. But yeah, it's the gravel bike thing. The whole reason for the popularity of that, I think, is the same thing. The rigid basic bikes that are well connected to the trail. They're fun to ride, they're simple, no suspension. I just think they've got a lot going for them, rigid bikes, and if you've never ridden one, it's something you should definitely try. The gravel bike is obviously the modern way of doing things, so that you can go down that route if you're looking to do something modern rigid wise. But then you've still got those abundance of old 90s mountain bikes out there that can be resto modded and be very capable off-road machines. You can even go down the route like we did with the orange C16 on the channel of making a bit of a gravel bike out of an old MTB. But yeah, I would certainly recommend to anyone that has never ridden a rigid bike to just try one. Just try an old bike, try a new gravel bike, whatever you like. But just the feeling of riding a rigid bike, yeah, you'll enjoy it. I think most of us would still be riding off-road now on bikes if suspension had never been invented. So yeah, go back to that sort of the roots of it all, try a rigid bike and see what you think, but I don't think you'll be disappointed.